Okay, so I'm going to start off with a story. Those of you who know my husband is very into like storytelling. So he says, you have to tell a story to get started today. So here's my story. So the earliest memory that I can recall from my childhood is going on an early morning fishing trip with my dad. And we were headed to my grandparents' farm where the fishing lake was. And I don't remember if I caught a fish that day, but what I do remember is the smile on my dad's face and the chill of the autumn air and the mist that was covering the lake. And as the sun came up, because of course we were out pretty early, that mist burning off of the surface of the lake, so to speak, and the smile on my dad's face. He was so excited to have a partner with him that day. I have no idea how old I was, but I think I was pretty young because I do recall my dad opening the trunk of the car and pulling out the potty training chair when I needed to go to the bathroom. So I was pretty young, and really truly that's I think my first memory of my childhood, and it was outside in the environment, in nature, just taking it all in. And I was really lucky. I grew up in a city, and not a huge city, but I grew up in the city. You know, the hospital was a half a block from my house, the fire department's 2 blocks away, the police department's 5 blocks away. And so I was in a pretty busy area. And my grandparents' farm was a place where we spent a lot of time. So during the summers, on the weekends, we were at my grandparents' farm. And some of the things that, well, when I was at the farm, I was outside. So we were planting our garden and tending our garden. My sisters and I would play hide and seek among the corn stalks out in the fields. I would sit underneath the oak tree next to the big old farmhouse with my grandmother, and we would have to snap bushels and bushels of green beans all afternoon. But it was fun because she would tell us stories about her childhood growing up on that same exact farm. And so just memories like that, things that I experienced when I was a child. Couple of things like, I guess I'm losing track. I think I knew this would happen. So, you know, like running out into the pasture. My cousins and I, we used to have races down in the pasture, and we would inadvertently aggravate the cows and they would chase us. So like experiences like that, that I didn't have at my house in the middle of the city. So going to my grandparents' farm was a time to be outside. It is the place where I learned how to work, and I learned how to play, and I learned about nature, and I was connected to nature. I learned about the environment and my impact on the environment, and it started from a very young age. And I'm very grateful for that, because I feel like that those experiences shape both my childhood, but they also shape my future and where I am today. I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't had those experiences. You know, hours of staring into the pond, watching the bluegill swim among their nests. Like that's what I did. That's what I like to do. So the unfortunate reality, as Amelia was connecting to, is that not every child has those opportunities. Not every adult has those opportunities to get outside and experience nature, to be able to connect with nature and really learn about the environment and how we are connected to it. And so I think that's a really important thing for us to think about. Why is that, and how can we change that? How can we get more people out into nature and experience the environment and connect to it? So I feel like this really does connect to our Vincentian Heritage Week theme for this year, which is caring for our common home. And that really puts a focus on sustainability. And I think that this connection to nature is really part of that sustainability and what sustainability is. So I ask my students all the time, what is sustainability? You know, why is sustainability important? How do you approach your life sustainably? What do you do? What does it look like? And so those are the questions I would like you to think about as we move forward, not just today or this week, but going forward in our lives is, what does that mean? How can you be more sustainable? And I think that hopefully part of the answer of what is sustainability, part of that should be connected to our children and what we're teaching our children and the examples we're showing our children, but getting our children to think about sustainability as well. And so I wanted to share a quote with you from Richard Love, and he is the author of Last Child in the Woods, which was really, I think, a book that many of the people who are in the Stella Niagara community found and read and really took that to heart. And that was one of the seeds that helped the outdoor education program become, go from an idea to an actual thing. And so he just says very simply that the human child in nature is the most important indicator species for future sustainability. So getting our children out into nature and experiencing nature, they really are critical to our future sustainability. So what put me on this path? So obviously, I started with some stories from my childhood. So my childhood experiences outside were very valuable to me. As a student, when I was K through 8, I had recess every day. I was outside playing, probably in the rain and the snow. I think we were just always outside. I can't ever remember spending recess indoors. So being outside, when I was in high school, I had a biology teacher that would take us for hikes on the nature trails behind our school. And he really loved birds, so he would teach us or try to teach us about, all of his favorite birds that we were hearing or seeing. And so those kind of experiences really stuck with me. And then when I headed off to undergrad as a biology major and with an interest in ecology and marine and aquatic sciences, I had a lot of classes that were tied to the outdoors. So we were always going outside, observing, measuring, doing all kinds of stuff. And so I found that I really learned very well from experiences by be able to go out and do things. And when I became a teacher, it became very important to me to create those kinds of experiences for my students. So I started out as a high school teacher in Ohio. And one of the first things I did in my second year of teaching is to join a group of teachers that they did this. They developed field experiences classes for high school students, and they took high school students all over the United States and even to the Bahamas for experiences outside, learning experiences. And I was fortunate enough to be able to help to develop some courses and to take part in some of those courses. When I came here to Niagara University, my husband and I, Dr. Edwards, we recognized that, we have this program where we're teaching biology and he's teaching a lot of ecology classes, and we have our, ecology lab classes, but we find that the students really need more connection to what they're learning about. They need more connection to the environment, more connection to the outdoors and to nature. And so that's what really prompted us to develop the Niagara Field Ecology program. So we offer courses here at Niagara University where we're connecting students to the environment that they're learning about. And Liz is one of the students who has participated in a couple of those courses and has had those experiences out in the field. So it's really become a passion of mine to connect people to the environment, connect them to nature, and help them to see how they are connected to it and how they impact it. So back to those who don't have those experiences. So Liz, I would say you're fortunate because you've been able to have those kinds of experiences, but not everybody has those experiences. So it could be that you don't have a teacher that knows how to take you outside or is comfortable outside. or you maybe not have the financial means to take a class where you're going to have this big field experience. And I think that we should try to address that and try to make these experiences more universal. And so that brings me to Stella Niagara. So Stella Niagara, as Amelia said, it's run by the Sisters of St. Francis, and they established the school that is now known as Stella Niagara Education Park in 1908, and it's in the northern part of Niagara County, and it's right along the Niagara River. So they've been there for a long time, and they have students from pre-K, so third graders through eighth graders, although they did have a high school at one point in time. And the mission and the values of this school are really deeply rooted in their Franciscan heritage. So they obviously, they take that to heart, and they really share that with their students. So this celebration and care for creation is really an important part of what they're teaching and modeling for the children. Recognizing their connection to nature and their impact of nature, and really working towards sustainable solutions at their school and on their campus. They share their campus with the community of the Sisters of St. Francis as well. So there's the school, but then there's the community of sisters that are there. So out of a desire to enhance the educational experience that they're providing to their students, and also, I think, out of a desire to address this nature deficit disorder that they also recognized was occurring across our country. And I think that's the seed that really Richard Love kind of planted in some of the people that were really a part of starting this program. They made a decision to make a pretty big investment in, we want to start an outdoor education program at our school. They are the only school in Niagara County, and I would say probably even Western New York, that has a dedicated outdoor education program. And so that's really a significant investment, especially for a small Catholic school where they don't have a lot of extra funds to make that investment. So in 2005, they decided to start that program, and I felt very fortunate to be selected to be the person to develop and lead and teach that program to the students. And so if you're not familiar with Stella Niagara, it is, as I said, it's in the northern part of Niagara County, right along the Niagara River, and they have a vast campus. 104 acres is the size of their campus. The campus has a school garden. They have an apple orchard. They have a secondary growth forest. The land was used for agricultural production for food for the Sisters of St. Francis, so they stopped doing that in the late 1940s. So you do have this secondary growth forest, and they have a nature trail within that forest. So just when I even started there was a lot to work with in terms of how to, what am I going to do to develop this program? It's like the perfect laboratory to try to figure out how to have a program like this. And I have to say, I was given a lot of freedom of what I could do. They basically said, we want you to connect our children to the outdoors. And we want you to do this in a way where you're connecting what they're learning in the classroom to the outside. And we want you to get them outside and have them experience being outside. And I needed to do it in an integrated approach. So I needed to have things tied together and try to tie as many subjects together to whatever I was doing with them. So that was kind of like the charge that they gave me to move forward with. So there were challenges, and probably the first challenge was I had so many ideas, I didn't know where to start. Like it was just, we could do this and we could do this, and what are we going to do? So just trying to figure out what was going to be the first step. And it turned out that really the most important thing that I needed to do is get the students and the teachers outside. Even though this is a school where they have recess every day for all kids from 3-year-olds up through 8th grade, get the students outside. And whether it's to take a walk, or whether they are taking a book outside, or they're writing outside, or they're laying on the ground and staring up at the trees. We just needed to get them outside and get them comfortable with being outside, not at recess time, because that was really the one time that they were used to being outside. So they knew what to do at recess, but when you got them outside at another time, it was kind of like they didn't quite know what to do with themselves. So getting them outside, getting the teachers outside, and helping them to really improve their comfortableness, I guess. I don't even know if that's a word. Their comfort with being outside. And I found that there really are a lot of people who are not comfortable being outside, and that was really foreign to me. And so I kind of had to think about, okay, how do I address that? And so, you know, I kind of took a mixed approach where I would kind of take it slow, and then sometimes it just seemed like, okay, we're just going to go outside and we're just going to do this. We're going to experience it. And so I don't know, probably for some of the students and teachers it may have worked better one way or the other, but getting them outside was really important. Another challenge was what are the students, challenge, and I think that the students and the teachers both learned early on, is that there's a lot of stuff outside that's really cool and really distracting. And so, like, I have all these people walking around as I'm talking here, and so that might be distracting to you. So the same thing when you're outside, there's like feathers all over the ground and the leaves, and there's some noise in the background, like what is that noise? And so that was something that was a challenge, is to figure out, okay, how do we deal with those things? And I think the best approach is a lot of times you just have to go with it. If you have a kid that's fascinated with these feathers on the ground, then you talk about, why are these feathers on the ground? Where did they come from? You know, what do they think? You know, kids can come up with some really good ideas. So learning that we're going to have to deal with distractions, and those distractions really can be turned into really good teachable moments, and to not try to shove them off on the side, but almost kind of embrace them and celebrate those, the things that the kids are noticing. So you may not get through your math lesson, but that's okay, because they learned something else that may even be more valuable than what you were trying to teach them. We also learned that weather is a challenge, especially in Western New York. And so that's okay. It taught us to be more flexible. It taught us to be more flexible about, you know, what our plan would be for the day, and we might have to change that and adjust it. And I think it really did kind of relax us all a little bit about, okay, well, we have to get outside. We have to get outside. No, today's not the day to go outside. And it just kind of helped to loosen us up. And as Amelia said, maybe it even helped the kids to recognize, oh, I need to put a coat on today, or, you know, something really teaches the kids to pay attention to the weather. And then the one thing that's kind of more of like a procedural thing is, when do we go outside? And who do we tell that we're going outside? And what if they need to get a hold of me when I'm outside with the kids? And what do we wear when we're outside? Which may not seem like big questions or big issues, but when you're working in a school and you're responsible for all these kids and you're taking them out of the building, that's a huge thing to consider. So that was another big challenge, like right at the beginning. It's like, okay, if I'm taking kids outside, who needs to know that I'm outside? What if they have to contact me when I'm outside with the kid? What if the kid has a medical emergency when they're with me outside? So those are really important things that if you're a teacher and you're taking kids outside, you do need to have some kind of system set up within your school, so that everybody is on the same page and has the same procedures and following all of those things. And it took us a while to really figure out what's the best way to handle those things. So then, after you kind of like those challenges that we met, just how to start developing a curriculum. Because I had to organize a curriculum and develop a curriculum, and I had to draw lines between, okay, what am I doing? How does it connect with math? How does it connect with social studies? How is this going to help the students learn about photosynthesis or whatever it might be? So that was really important. So it took a lot of research, and it really took a lot of collaboration from the teachers in the building. And I was very lucky that the teachers in the building were very supportive of this program. The principal was very supportive of this program. And so sitting down and talking with each teacher about what do they teach for each subject that they're teaching at each grade level, and taking that information away and then trying to start to figure out, okay, how can we use this huge campus to help to connect to those experiences that they're having in the classroom to out of the classroom. And so obviously I even though Stella Niagara is a Catholic school, and so they have the freedom, wiggle room to teach what they choose to teach, and they're not held to the New York State standards, so to speak, as you would if you were at a public school district. But still, I wanted to make sure that the kids were getting what they needed. So really diving into the New York State standards was important. And then finding resources. There are so many resources out there to help to support outdoor education. And some of my favorite were Project Learning Tree. And this is, if you're in education, this is something that, it's a program, and the New York DEC offers educational workshops to teachers on Project Learning Tree, and they provide you with all kinds of educational resources. So that's just one of them. There's all kinds of them. New York Sea Grant, the Audubon Society. There's a great group that's called the Beatles Project, and so they are focused on teaching kids outside. It's a field experienced teaching and learning organization, and that's all they do is just focusing how to teach kids outside. So there's a lot of different resources out there, and if you're interested and you want to shoot me an email, I'd be happy to share those resources with you. But so doing the research and looking at those resources, and figuring out how to use that huge and beautiful campus that they have at Stella. So now the connect with, like, what did I teach? So sustainability really connected to a lot of what was happening with the outdoor education program. And the first thing was that the school has this garden, but the garden had kind of been abandoned for a while. So I remember, like, my first trip out to the garden, I was like, oh my goodness, it was a mess. And so figuring out how to revitalize the garden and get the kids and the teachers back out into the garden. And so we plant a garden. They plant a garden every year. We planted a garden every year. And my focus was, we need to have crops that are going to be harvestable during the school year. Because if it's stuff that is going to be harvestable in the summer, there's nobody around to harvest those things. And so I felt that wouldn't be a good experience for the kids. So the first year we really focused on salad and salad crops. And by the end of the, probably the end of May, beginning of June, we were having salad parties in the children's dining room, where the kids would come out with me in the morning and we would harvest the salad and the radishes and spinach, and I had them eating arugula and Swiss chard and all kinds of things that maybe they wouldn't eat at home, but because they planted it, they were very happy to at least try it, and give it a try and see if they liked it. So we got the garden going again, and we actually, on our third year, we were awarded a, I'm going to forget the name of the organization, the Whole Kids Foundation, which is, it's connected to the Whole Foods Company. So the Whole Kids Foundation awarded us a garden grant to help us replace some things from the garden. The garden was established, I think, in 2009. So like the watering lines and things like that were kind of in disrepair. So we were able to fix the things with that. But the garden was really important because the kids, they enjoyed it, they loved it. They even really liked going out and pulling weeds. That was like fun for them. And they started, you know, over the next couple of years, the kids start and come and tell you that, hey, we started a garden at my house. My family now has a garden. We're now growing things at my house. And I would have parents that would come to tell me that, you know, you taught my kids about how to plant plants and now they want to do this at home, so we're going to start a garden. So I think it really started to move from out of the school and into the community, into the families. So we started the garden. So aside from eating the garden plants, we did lessons centered around the garden. So, you know, the 8th graders were measuring the garden and figuring out, okay, so for planting pumpkins, a pumpkin plant needs this much space. How many pumpkin plants can we put in the garden? So there was math involved. We talked about pollination and germination and photosynthesis and all those things that you can connect very easily to plants in the science classes. With our pumpkins, we used them in math classes. Students weighed them, they counted the number of seeds, they just did all kinds of different really creative math assignments with the pumpkins. Even the kindergartners would do like science experiments. Is the pumpkin going to sink or float kind of thing? And so we really worked at connecting it into the curriculum. We also worked on improving the recycling in the school. So when I arrived, the school was recycling paper and cardboard, but plastic and glass and cans was not being recycled. And so it was something that the students were really interested in doing. They wanted to be able to recycle those things. So we implemented orange buckets in the classrooms and in the hallway to be able to collect those things so that they could be recycled. We also did a year-long project studying the number of plastic bags that our families used. So the plastic disposable shopping bags. And this was, I think, in the year leading up to when New York State put in their ban. And so we asked families to bring in the plastic bags that they brought from the store, and the students were involved in like counting them and figuring out how many bags we were actually using, and if we use this many bags in a month, how many bags would we use an entire year? And you know, what does it mean to use that much plastic? And the second part of the project, which we were lucky to get some funding from one of the families in the school, is every family was provided with a reusable shopping bag. So the second part of the project was, how many plastic bags can we keep out of the environment by using our reusable shopping bags? And so that was, I think, a project that we really kind of aimed at hitting at home. So not just with our students, but also trying to change behaviors at home with our families, which I did get a lot of complaints at first about that from some parents, which I was kind of surprised about, but it was okay. But I think eventually their kids just were like, no, this is what we're doing. This is important, kind of thing. Another thing connected with the garden, I think, connected to sustainability. So we had our school librarian's son. He came to Stella. He wanted to become an Eagle Scout, so he needed an Eagle Scout project. So he came to Stella and he built a composting bin out at our garden. So we started off with putting our garden waste into the compost bin, but it grew into a much bigger thing where we actually started collecting all the compostable food from our children's dining room and the school kitchen, and all of that waste was going into that compost bin. And so then that waste would decompose, and so the students all learned about what decomposition is and what are the critters that are doing the decomposition. And we're going to turn this into garden soil, and that's going to go back into our garden. We're going to turn it into more food that we can eat. And so that was really something that changed the culture of the school in the dining room. The students had to learn a whole new way of cleaning off their trays. And it seems like a simple thing, and I kind of thought, okay, this is not going to be hard. This is going to be really simple. It was really complicated to figure out how to you know, how are they going to go through this line, and how are they going to sort, and what are they going to sort, and what we you know, so we taught about sustainability and composting and decomposition, but we also turned it into a math lesson because we actually weighed the amount of food that we were putting into the compost bin every day, and we were able to see, like, over a period of time, how much food did we keep from going into the landfill by putting it into our compost bin. And so these are connections that are happening from the 3-year-olds all the way up through the 8th graders. They're all of the students are involved in this. I could just go on and on and on about what I did with these kids, and what they're still doing, which is, I'm so happy that they have a wonderful teacher who has taken over the program and who is really caring for it, and the program is evolving, and so it is very exciting. And just thinking back over the last couple of days is, what am I going to talk about? There's just too many specific lessons that I just loved when I was there working with the kids and teaching them. But we did really focus on observation. That was like one of the first things. Every school year we would start off with observation. And it would look different depending on the age group. Maybe if you were a 3 or 4-year-old, we would go outside and we would look for different shapes. So can you find a circle in nature? Can you find a square in nature? If you were one of the older kids, maybe it would be like, find an item, and then you're going to ask yourself the question of, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. So you're looking at that item and you're trying to think, okay, I notice, what do I notice about this thing? What do I wonder about this thing? So what's my question about it? And what does it remind me of? And that actually was a favorite activity for the students all the way up through the oldest students in the building, is to do that and share with each other. So observation was really important. Connecting to the different subject areas. I don't know, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. So I guess what I'll say, if you want to ask me about specifics, then I'll take questions about the specific programs. But the program now is in its 5th year, and it's going very strong. And it really has become part of the school's identity, I think, is that it's having this outdoor component and being outside is really become part of what being a student at Stella Niagara has become. And the teachers and the students and the parents have really embraced it. And it's something that they look forward to. The kids are excited about when it's their outdoor education day, or when they're going out to the garden, or maybe they get to go out and play in the snow, and we're going to build a snowman or something like that, whatever it might be that we're doing that day. And I did hear from a couple of parents that they're very grateful this year, especially, that they have this outdoor education program, because they already know how to go outside and learn outside. And with COVID and having the social distancing and wearing the mask and everything, it has allowed them to really move outside much more freely. And so that was really nice to hear that feedback from one of the parents, that this program is really helping them to deal with all of the kind of restrictions that we're facing right now. And so just in terms of an investment, thinking about making this happen for all children, it really, I mean, I talked about Stella, I have this beautiful big campus, but you don't need a beautiful big campus in order to do this. You just need a space outside of your school building, a space outside to sit and listen and watch for birds, or pick up leaves off the ground, or whatever. It doesn't have to be something as elaborate as what I had to work with at Stella. And it does really benefit the students, and it benefits the teachers. There are so many studies that have come out that being outside really improves your physical health and your mental health. And so being able to take the students outside, and even take the teachers outside, it really is helping them from a financial standpoint, and being eligible for grants, that being an inner city school and being a public school system makes you much more eligible for grants. We had trouble getting grants for our garden, or we had wanted to get snowshoes for our students, and we had a lot of difficulty trying to even identify who would be willing to give us grant money because we were a private religious institution. And so that was problematic. And so what they're really looking for is public schools. They're looking for schools that are inner city, that have populations that may be at-risk populations, and they're really trying to target those types of populations. So there's just a lot of different groups out there that are really wanting to put the money towards those types of things. I was really surprised when we got the garden grant. We applied for it, but I didn't think that we would ever get any money because we already had a garden. And so to me, that money should go to someplace that doesn't have a garden, to help them get a garden. I was happy to get the money, but I really didn't expect us to get the money because they're trying to. A lot of the groups who are providing grants for this types of thing, they're really trying to focus those. So I think the money is there. It's just the time and effort to write the grants, which can be huge, right? But it's worth it. It really is worth it. And then I think if you're in an inner city school or a place that maybe doesn't have a lot of land, just simply getting the kids outside and getting them to spend some time outside, and then making connections with literature is very easy. You have your picture books or whatever. We did so much reading connecting to the outdoor education program. We were just constantly sharing books with the students, connecting to whatever it might be that we're doing in class. Or having the students read books that are about the outside, and then giving them experiences outside that are connected to it. Like the 7th graders read the Hunger Games. And so after they read the Hunger Games, then we had a Hunger Games field day where they played games that were connected with the story. So as they're outside playing these games, they're actually talking about the story and the different parts of the story and the characters and the different interactions between the characters, like while they're outside playing these games. So I think literature is really, it helps me make connections to what was going on in the classroom very easily by tying that to the outdoors.